This is the Black Heart, and I'm the conservative, Rick Howland. And I've got my friend Derek Barber. He's with us again.
Good to be with you.
Yes, sir. I'm glad. I'm glad to be anywhere. If you can still see me, praise God. Hey, last week we were talking about the studies at Harvard and about studies of sexuality with children, and the assumption that even as infants you could tell that a child believed that he was how he presented physically.
Sexual preference for an infant.
Really wasn't a preference for that child, and adults are putting forth the postulating the idea that they can tell this child thinks it's a girl or this child thinks it's a boy, and but there was nothing that we were able to find in there that gave any proof of it other than the conjecture. And and it's a study done at Harvard, and I was talking about the idea that a study and treatment is two different things. If a child has a problem, if a person has a problem, the doctors are supposed to treat it. But if they're studying, then they're doing experiments on that patient rather than treating that patient. And that brought me to the my memory back to when I was a kid. If you're a person of a certain age, like say 70 and above, you will remember the Kinsey report. And the Kinsey report was a study done. I don't know what you'd call it. It was a report full blown. I mean, thousands of pages of research were done, and they principally studied two groups of people, and they created a report on human sexuality. Kinsey's report was about human sexuality, and it was at the University of Indiana University. And they were connected with the prison system in Indiana, and they studied adults, male and female, who were locked in the prison system, and those people were questioned about their sexuality. So
I gotta ask.
Yeah.
You're gonna take a captive audience.
Yeah.
A prison.
Yeah.
Men with men, women with women. And ask them about their sexual behavior.
Yeah.
They have none. They're in prison.
They should have none, but what they discovered was there was plenty of sexual behavior in prison. And the percentages, and I can't remember those percentages now, but it seemed to me Kinsey was claiming that homosexuality was up in the teens.
I did see that when you were introducing some of it to me.
Yeah.
I looked it up, and it was saying that at the end of the day, she was saying that bisexuality is the prominent, more so than heterosexuality.
Right, and so, but they were just pure homosexual preferences. It was, as I remember, like 15-16%. But they were claiming that most people, that normalcy would require that we be bisexual, and they were. The criticism of this study when it came on that portion that was done with prison, done with in penitentiaries, was that you had it wasn't a slice or a sample from the culture at large. It was a slice or a sample from people who were kind of a subculture of our society. Those who had been separated because of their lack of and many of them because of their lack of social. They for whatever reason they weren't fitting in with everybody else.
I think I found your stats. It's saying that, and mind you, this is 1948.
Yeah.
And it says 37.
I was 1 year old.
She's saying 37% of males and 13% of females had at least some overt homosexual experience to orgasm. 10% of males were more or less exclusively homosexual, and 8% of males were exclusively homosexual for at least 3 years between the ages of 16 and 55. For females, Kinsey reported a range of 2 to 6% for more or less exclusively homosexual experience and response. 4% of males and 1 to 3% of females have been exclusively homosexual after the onset of adolescence up to the time of this interview. And Kinsey devised a classification scheme for to measure sexual orientation and is commonly known as the Kinsey scale.
Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. You found it. I remembered it. You know, it's praise God. But that was quoted throughout my childhood, all the way. I'm a baby boomer.
So was this an attempt at a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah. I mean, what's his name came out? Hugh Hefner came out with in the mid '50s with Playboy. And I guarantee you, Kinsey. There was something about Kinsey and the Playboy philosophy every month. Kinsey was selling that hard. I think Warner Brothers, if I'm not mistaken, made a movie called The Kinsey Report, and all it was about 3 or 4 different couples, in their sexual escapades through the movie. Now, back in those days, it wasn't a porno movie. But you got the impression that the
implied deep
the
friendship.
Implied, husband, couples that were swinging and different. And this was a movie based on the Kinsey Report, in an entertaining way, introducing America to the truth really about American culture.
So was this another stab at the self-control that is taught in the Christian faith?
That's most churches took it that way back in those days, because most churches were awake when they realized that the culture was under attack.
Awake, but today the church can be woke.
Yeah, there's a difference between being awake and being woke.
What would you say it is?
The difference, woke is pretty much indoctrinated with whatever is approved of by the secular elements of our culture. There's something wrong with we're not binary. If you're binary, there's you're not really binary. You just don't know. I had a debate with a couple of feminists. It's been about 4 or 5 years ago, and they were telling me they were explaining the different languages, different names and stuff. And I'm a full-grown man. I'm sophisticated. They were talking to me as though they were speaking down to me as though you don't know anything, you poor thing, you. And and I said, well, you're a cis gentleman. And I said, cis. I said, what is cis? And they said, CIS. Cis. It means that you're
a male that likes females.
No, it meant that I was still looking, and I was a male that liked females, and I was settling for that. And I was still looking. So I hadn't really settled on what my real sexuality was.
You have children, though.
I mean, hell, man.
Grandchildren.
Yeah, excuse me. I didn't mean to say that word.
And you don't know by now?
Yeah. I mean, what did what's his name say in The Mask? Somebody stop me. It's too late to stop me. I ain't giving them up. I love them all, every last one of them. Don't mess with mine. It was just really strange. Now, the other group of people that the study was done on, and there may have been more than just 2. I'm just going off memory. The Kinsey, under the auspices of Indiana University, y'all, And I don't think Indiana University is proud of this. They had parents, they got some parents that would bring in their children, allow their children to be studied about sexuality. And there were children that were wards of the state that were used. And it was this was experimentation done, sexual experimentation done on babies by Dr. Kinsey and his cadre of helpers. He had student assistants. There were, probably scores of students that got their degrees by assisting Dr. Kinsey over the years compile his information for his report. And I'm going off memory of a book that I read, had to been in the early 80s, and they would sometimes stimulate children to see if they could experience orgasm. And they would hook the child up on monitors and so forth, to see their I don't know what they would have called because this is experimentation done in the late 40s, early 50s. Now they'd have, heart monitors and so forth on, something similar to that. And they would stimulate a child sexually. And the one that really bothered me the most was there was some children that could be stimulated so much that they could experience an orgasm once an hour. Now that's torture.
I wouldn't even understand the basis of what they're after.
They wanted to prove that children were sexual beings. They were laying the groundwork for the arguments that are being put out now by those who are trying to create minor attracted people, no longer called pedophiles, that the idea that children are sexual beings and it should be acceptable for adults to participate in sexual activity with children. Kinsey was doing everything he could to create a body of work that would recommend that children were sexual beings. They were stimulating infants to the point of orgasm, and they found out that some babies could be stimulated up to the point of once an hour. At some point, I'm a full-grown man. We just discussed I got a bunch of babies. I got a bunch of grandbabies. I don't care how much in love I was with a young lady. There was a point where I didn't want to do it no more. There was a point where
You had to take a nap.
Let's take a nap, and maybe play some cards for a little while. Got to get up. I got to go to work. Please let me go to work.
Lord.
Don't y'all laugh at me. But it's true. There's torture when just think about it. If you were held captive, and somebody could take control of your body and stimulate you so that once an hour, that'd be worse than Chinese water torture.
It's just like you were saying, we've been here before.
Yeah, we've been here before.
This new Harvard study
yeah,
is ultimately an extension of works like this.
Kinsey.
And ultimately, the works like this have laid the to, I guess, the LGBTQIA plus.
They're going to pull this up.
Is
Kinsey's
the scale
coming back, yeah.
ultimately the Kinsey scale, because it's different levels of attraction, different levels of just taking a glance at the Kinsey scale. So what I'm saying is, I still don't see how you put a child in, and you're saying it starts with the Kinsey report. I'm still not understanding. If we know better today, why would we even play these games?
Well, don't you know, the left isn't interested in knowledge and truth. The left is interested in indoctrination. Indoctrination that will lead them to the political outcomes that they want. It doesn't matter what the truth is medically about human beings. Just look at the COVID situation. For years, doctors have talked about herd immunity, and vaccines are good to help supplement our help herd immunity grow, so that once you don't have people who are susceptible to catching a flu or a cold or a disease, once you've got enough people that have developed an immunity to it, that disease dies out because it has no one
No one to host.
No one to host and nobody to infect. But for political purposes, COVID was used to pervert an election, to actually pervert the whole theory and the idea of
community, communing all together, because they told you to social distance, not physical distance.
Right. Children learn how to talk.
The church has even been decircuited because of COVID.
I have a friend who drives Uber. He was upset because at 4:30 in the morning, during the worst of the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, during the worst of it, he's at strip clubs picking up people and taking them to hotels. And he was thinking about, it dawned on him one night he'd like to just go park in the church parking lot, take a nap, and when church started, go in rather than miss church again, And it dawned on him he couldn't because his church was closed down.
Didn't open. Yeah.
But it was okay for the strip clubs. That was political.
But that goes to...
And that was anti-religious.
That goes to the base, though. There were people who allowed individuals to tell them your faith doesn't work.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we recognize that God already had us equipped to deal with this pandemic as well.
Look, man, churches were out to be super spreaders. If a strip club ain't a super spreader, then nothing is.
Spreader? Okay, I can see that.
Nothing is. Ain't one wearing no mask in there. I'm serious. Brother told me people were coming out and putting a mask on. They were coming out and putting a mask on. They didn't have a mask on inside.
And so again, the church is being diluted.
The church is being diluted and it's under attack.
Primarily because these ideas are being taught in school. We're sending our children to schools that come back and attempt to re-educate the church of the secular doctrine. And
the LGBTQ, all of this.
Well, I'm learning it was a different one now. It's LGBTQIA+.
Well, the IA is intersexual and the A is
I didn't study
asexual. I saw in one of those other articles, that's what the IA is. Now, I used to know what asexual meant, but...
I thought it just wasn't messing with nobody.
Yeah, but I got a feeling they can't ever let a word maintain the original meaning. They always have to tweak it so it means something a little bit more.
And again, and if that's what you do, that's what you do. But that's why are you going to look at a child and say, well, that one's a T? Or that one's a G.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Because if they can't decide which one they are, how is a baby gonna know to even put them in any of the brackets? That's what bothers me is why are we playing this game?
Yeah. We're playing this game, and I think me and you, we realize we're not playing this game with human beings. We're dealing with spiritual wickedness in high places. This is a game. It's not a game. The devil is attacking God through his creation. The devil is attacking God through those made in his image. We're made in his image. He thinks he can hurt God through hurting us. He thinks he can dishonor God by dishonoring his image. All of this, everything that we're talking about, is stimulated into our culture by the evil one.
So how do the children of God take back what's theirs? And we're
Hey,
talking the hearts of people.
Well, we're supposed to occupy till he comes. We need to get out and start talking, just start dealing with people, and find out where they are and help them where they are. Don't walk in trying to tell them, well, I'm a Christian and you're going to hell and I'm not. Find out what people need. Meet them at that need. Jack Kemp said it so well. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. Once you care, and they realize that you care, then they'll become so curious they won't be able to help themselves. They're gonna want to know what you think about a thing. They're gonna want to know. I've watched it over the years at Midwest Church of Christ, where I used to tutor, and invariably people would ask them. They knew I was the crazy one that was conservative. I was a Republican.
You crazy? Okay.
Yeah. But after a while, they get to know me. They like me, tell some jokes and play around and laugh and talk, and then eventually would always come around. They'd ask me about something, and I'd get to tell them what I thought. And I think some people caught on and got it and were moved incrementally toward the God side of things. Not that there were people that knew. I'm talking, and this is among saved people, but they have a political persuasion that's just, they've been brainwashed to think that the Democrat Party is the party of the poor and the party for civil rights. And slowly but surely they begin to look at, and their eyes will be open enough to begin to see cracks in the wall. But it would be because, they thought I was crazy, but, I wasn't totally stupid.
I've seen it I've seen it that it doesn't matter. I'm a conservative as well.
Yeah.
And I know what you're talking about when you're in certain circles, and if you make a statement that is a fact,
Yeah.
it's debatable because you're a conservative.
Yeah.
It's
If for no other reason.
right. Just you're a
Doesn't matter about
conservative.
the
You
proof
can't be
present.
right.
Yeah.
Or I've had people who didn't even want to hear my opinion because they were afraid they would agree.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. And, so this is the Harvard studies that you introduced me to, and it's just a continuation. Kinsey came too early. Our culture wasn't, what's the word?
Mature enough?
No, our country wasn't weak enough. Now we've got. They actually taught science. When polio was going on, literally, our teachers, life was during the polio epidemic. Life was really a medical course for kids in elementary school. I learned about immunity, herd immunity. And I learned that it was different for one person than the other, based kind of, and the idea that they were telling us in school was that some people have stronger immunity than others. So one person might get sick and all they'd have was a cold and have polio. And the person sitting next to them would, probably infected with the same strain, the same day, same time, and end up in an iron lung for the rest of their lives. And end up with atrophied muscles all over their bodies. And yet other people in the room would maybe not catch it at all. I was one of the first ones to get a polio vaccine. When the second time it was put out twice. First time they had a tainted batch. and a bunch of people got sick actually came down with polio from the tainted batch. And they withdrew all of it. They perfected everything, made sure they didn't make that same mistake again, and then reintroduced the vaccine.
So they didn't give you the polio booster.
Yeah, I got the booster.
I'm being
But I
silly
didn't
as,
get- oh, okay, no.
as we knew it, certain
Right,
things are
right.
going wrong with COVID. And
yeah.
then they say, you want a booster?
Yeah. No. It was. Oh my goodness, we've gone time over. God bless you guys. Sorry about that. This is the Black Heart Conservative. This is Derek Barber, and we'll see you next week. God bless you.